Well, good afternoon, everybody. I've been looking forward to this immensely. Jack Canfield shares a story that had a real deep meaning to me when I was in Bangkok. I was working with the president of Ford of Thailand, and at that time he had an operating committee that was needing some support in leadership, so we did a culture building leadership program. And afterwards, I had the opportunity to be the tourist. And I got to travel around, and I came upon this ancient temple that was maybe about, a quarter of the size of this room. And in one corner of it was this giant statue of Buddha, and right next to the statue was this glass case with all these chunks of clay in it. And I was just curious, so I went to the statue and I went to the clay in this case, and I saw that there was this little sheet of paper with some typewritten words. It's kind of hard to read, but it shared this most remarkable story. Turns out that in the 1950s, the Thai government was building a freeway to Bangkok. And in building this freeway, they had to physically relocate this timeless temple, and of course they brought in all the heavy equipment, and at one point they were lifting this giant statue, this giant clay statue of Buddha, and somehow they had miscalculated the weight. And because of that, it started to crack. And so the head monk who was supervising the program, he said, let's set it down, set it down. So very gently they set down that statue. Well, that night, he went out, he took a flashlight, and he shined that light in the crack, and to his amazement, something from inside that statue shined back. And for the life of him, he couldn't figure out what it was. Well, curiosity got the better of this guy. He took a chisel and hammer, started hammering on this thing, and after a couple of hours, he stood in front of a 10.5-foot tall, 4.5-ton solid gold statue of Buddha. Well, of course they researched this, and they found out that 300 years earlier, the Burmese army, the Burmese army was coming south and attacking what was then called Siam. And so the Siamese monks knew that this was happening, so they covered up their precious gold statue with clay. And of course, as the army came through, the good news was they didn't take the statue. The bad news was that anybody who knew the secret didn't live long enough to tell anybody about it. So for 300 years, people were going by doing their daily ritual, not knowing that this far, this deep beneath the surface was this incredible treasure. And when I heard that story, it had huge meaning to me as somebody who was leading workshops in the area of culture building leadership. Because is it possible that just like that statue, that in our work teams, in us individually, that there is gold maybe just this far beneath the surface? So real quick question, for how many of you does it absolutely make your day when you're able to interact with somebody in a way that it somehow makes a difference in their life? Show of hands. Yeah, that's like everybody. There's something in everybody that wants to make that quality of difference. But how do you actually do it? What's the how-to? How do you bring the goal forward in the people that you influence? And so today we're going to kind of focus on that a little bit. I'm going to share some tools that have been, at least in terms of the feedback I've gotten, extremely valuable in answering the how-to.